Welcome to the Knitted by Whitney YouTube channel. I am here with a special video for you today. I am recapping everything that I knitted in 2023, but I'm putting my own spin on it. I am not going to talk about every single item that I knitted this year. I did that last year, and I know the everything I knit in insert year videos are very, very popular, and they can seem a little one note. So I thought I would change it up a bit for this year and do my own version. I am going to be talking about all of the items that I knitted for myself this year, and I'm going to be showing how I style them. I'm so excited to be doing this video. I've been thinking about it for a while, and now is the perfect time to do it because it is the last few days before the end of 2023, and I have a fresh off the needles project for you today. You are getting a special first look at my finished Dartmoor sweater. I haven't even recorded a podcast episode about this yet. And this is going to be one of my makes that I'm going to show off in this video today. Now, I looked back at what I made this year, and surprisingly, I knitted a lot for such a busy and stressful year for myself. And I'm wondering if that's because I was doing a lot of stress knitting. But of all the things that I knitted this year, I knitted myself 6 garments. And those are the objects that I wanted to talk about in this video. And I thought it would be fun to show you how often I wear them, how I style them, and for some of the ones that I knit earlier this year, how they've held up, and if my initial thoughts about them when I first finished them are still the same now, a few months later, or 12 months later, as the case is with at least one of the projects. So I thought I would show you the 6 items that I knitted for myself this year in the order of how much I wear them, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to sort of go in order of least worn to most worn to see if you can guess what my most worn hand knit project is from 2023. Now, I'm not taking into account any of the other sweaters that I've knitted in previous years because there are other sweaters that I've knitted that I do wear quite a lot. I'm only looking at the sweaters that I knitted in 2023. And can you guess what the most worn one is going to be? Let's find out. I think you can take a guess as to what my least worn knitted item is this year. It is my Dartmoor sweater that I have on right now. The only outfit I have worn this with are the pajama pants that I have on right now, and I really didn't feel like showing you that shot, so you actually don't get a full body shot of my Dartmoor sweater, but I will talk to you about it anyway. It is fresh off the blocking mats. I just wove my ends in yesterday, and I just finished knitting it the day before. So this is a brand new finished object, and I have some thoughts about it. I will go into more detail in my next podcast episode, which I'll hopefully be recording by the end of January. But I'll give you just sort of my initial views about this sweater from a standpoint of wearability and kind of what I'm envisioning my outfits being like for this sweater. So first of all, this is meant to be a big, cozy, oversized sweater. I chose a size that, although it does give me some positive ease, it doesn't give me excessive positive ease, which is fine because I don't like having sweaters that have a lot of positive ease. I find for myself personally, for my style, I think that my body type doesn't look as good with a lot of ease compared to a slimmer body type. So I choose sweaters, when I choose to make sweaters, I choose a size that gives me a comfortable amount of ease, but it doesn't give me excessive ease because I find that I don't like that look on myself. However, the thing about the Dartmoor sweater is it's still a boxy style, which I'm totally fine with. I like a boxy style, but something that I don't like about this sweater are these loose cuffs. I thought for sure with the long cuff that I would get a nice cinched cuff, and I do feel that this is partly because of my yarn choice that these cuffs are as loose as they are. Also, the Dartmoor sweater doesn't have a lot of sleeve decreases. They are still boxy, loose sleeves. It is a drop shoulder, so you kind of want that. You don't want to have tight knit sleeves for a drop shoulder. It just kind of looks a little awkward. But I was kind of disappointed in how loose they are. I also did knit mine 1 inch shorter because when I tried it on pre-blocking, before I even finished a cuff, I liked that length, and I knew when I blocked it I was going to get a longer length, which I did. They were probably about here pre-blocking, and then post-blocking they come down to about here, which is still totally fine for me. I love pulling my sweaters over my hands. That's something I do all the time. But I didn't realize until I blocked it that when you block a drop shoulder sweater, when you get more out of the width, which I wanted to give a nice boxier fit, that also makes your sleeves longer because when you're pulling it across, you're also making the sleeves longer because instead of stopping up here, your drop shoulder now stops down here. Totally fine. I'm okay with it. The sweater comes down to about my hips. I'm sitting down, so you can't really see it very well. So the length is perfect. I can wear that length with a lot of different items. I will most likely wear this with jeans, and when I do take my finished object photos, which I haven't even done yet, I am going to be wearing a brand new accessory. My husband got me a felted wool hat for Christmas that I saw in a store a couple of weeks ago that I really, really loved but didn't buy at the time. And it is going to look awesome with this sweater because the hat is like a army green, which I think goes so nicely with rusty orange. And I'll probably just pair this with some dark denim jeans. I can also see myself wearing this sweater with a high-waisted skirt and French tucking the front of the sweater. I do that with a lot of my sweaters. And because this is a relatively thin sweater, it's very easy to do that without having a lot of excess bulk that kind of sticks out of the waistband of the skirt in a weird way. So I'm very excited about that. And I have a lot of earth tones in my wardrobe, so I can see myself wearing this with a lot of like greens, navies, browns, all kinds of different colors that I think will really bring out the cozy, earthy, foresty vibes of this sweater. Now we're going to get into the garments that I knit this year based on how much I wore them. And at the bottom of the pile is my romance cardigan that I knitted for my wedding this year. And the reason this one hasn't gotten as much wear as the other items is because this is kind of a specialty piece. Now, of course, I wore this on my wedding day with my wedding dress, as I'll show you in a photo right here, because I'm not gonna get that out of the closet. I love my wedding dress, but I don't feel like putting on the undergarments that I need in order to wear it for a video, so I'll just include a picture of what that looks like. Now, I did wear this cardigan again after my wedding, and I wore it quite recently. I wore my wedding cardigan to Christmas Eve at my in-laws, and I really love how I styled it, which I'll show you when I do my full body shot. But for now, let's talk a bit about my romance cardigan, my feelings about it, and how I feel that it fits in my wardrobe. So when I knitted this cardigan, I really only had the one wear in mind for it, which was to go with my wedding dress. So I knitted this cardigan specifically to match my wedding dress, the silhouette, the length of the body, all of that stuff, and I tailored it to work with that specific outfit. Yes, in the back of my mind, I also thought about being able to wear the wedding cardigan again, but now that it comes to my normal life past the wedding, I find that I don't reach for this cardigan very much, and that's because of a couple reasons. The first reason is it is a little short, and that's because I knitted the cardigan to end exactly where the waistband of my wedding dress did, which was at my natural waist. Because I had a really full skirt and I thought it would look silly to have a cardigan that flared out with the skirt of the dress. I really didn't want that look. So I made this cardigan more cropped than I normally would, and I find that it looks nice over dresses, but it really doesn't always work well with anything else. After the wedding, the temperature started to go down, so I wasn't really wearing as many dresses. So I might wear this more in the spring and in the summer when I'm wearing dresses. versus now I'm into pants, wool tights, a lot of my fall wardrobe, which is thicker and cozier. I'm not necessarily reaching for a light and airy cardigan. Even though it is made with brushed alpaca silk, which is quite cozy, it isn't necessarily something that I reach for in the colder months. So that's why I haven't worn it very much lately, but I did wear it for Christmas Eve. One of the other reasons why I don't reach for this cardigan is that I do find that the balloon sleeves are just a little too big for my everyday style. I love the big balloon sleeves for something special, for a special event, for a date night outfit, something as special as our wedding or, our Christmas Eve party with my in-laws. It just isn't something that I think is what I like to wear in my day-to-day style. I do love feminine knits. I do love costumey knits, anything that's kind of vintagey inspired, that type of thing. But I think this is just a little too dramatic for my everyday style. So that's kind of why I don't reach for this very often. As well, I definitely made a mistake with my button choice. The buttons don't stay closed because I chose these beautiful vintage inspired buttons. They're from Fable Knitwear, which I'll link in the description below. But because they are large shank buttons, which means that there's a big top and then there's just the one little loop on the back that you sew onto your cardigan, I find that I had to stretch my buttonholes to fit over that large section of the button, but then they don't stay in place on the small shank part and they come right apart just like you saw. Now, I love these buttons and I think aesthetically they're perfect for this cardigan and they were perfect for the wedding. But everyday wear, they kind of don't really work. They're also kind of heavy because they're metal buttons and this is a very floaty, very lightweight fabric. I don't want to alter this cardigan though because it is very special because it was my wedding cardigan. So I think I'll just save it for special occasions when I'll wear it open, such as I am right now. And I think that looks really, really nice. I could sew the whole front together and only wear it as a closed top over like a camisole or something. But I don't think I'll get as much wear out of it if I do that. I think I would get more wear out of it if I have it open all the time and I wear different things underneath it. So now that I've talked your ear off about it, let me show you how I style my romance cardigan. After my romance cardigan, my next worn garment that I knit this year is my Botanical tee by Knititude. Now, this is not accurate to the pattern because I accidentally forgot to do one of the lace leaf repeats on the top half of this sweater. So my armhole is a lot smaller than the pattern shows and it is a more cropped style. That wasn't intentional. But I find I have worn this sweater a lot more than I expected based on what I had initially knitted it for. So I knit this one back in, I think, May, and I knitted it as a potential top to wear to my bridal shower in June. And at the time, I thought it would be really cute to wear with the white tulle skirt that I was wearing for my bridal shower. However, the white of the tulle skirt and the white of this top were not the same because this top is technically a cream and it really just didn't look good with the white skirt having that two-tone top and bottom. So I ended up knitting something else for my bridal shower. In fact, this was a backup to that original pattern and I did make that original pattern work. So it ended up great in the end. And I thought after I knitted this and it wasn't what I had in mind for the bridal shower, that meant I wouldn't actually wear it. And initially in like the spring and summer months, I struggled to figure out how I wanted to wear this sweater. and what I wanted to style it with. And in the end, I realized I don't actually like this to wear as a top on its own. First of all, the leaf lace is quite see-through, so I have to wear a camisole underneath it if I am going to be wearing it like this, which is no big deal, but I'm already wearing this one tank top layer. I feel silly wearing a second tank top underneath it, but I have to because it's quite see-through straight down the middle of my top. Now, it wasn't until the late summer and early fall that I realized this is actually a great top for layering. And once I realized that, the way that I style this top totally took off, and I found a lot of different outfits that I really enjoyed wearing it with. And I even found ways to wear it into the late fall, early winter, and it has inspired me to want to knit a vest. At least one, maybe more than one. I never was a vest person before, other than junior high when I was into the button-down tailored vests that everybody was into with bell bottoms and everything, and I grew out of that look quickly. And it took me until, a couple months ago to realize that, hey, maybe I am a vest person. Maybe they just need to be knitted vests. So let me show you some of the ways that I style my botanical tee. My channel for a while, or if you saw my knitted wedding series that I released earlier this year, you'll know that my blue souffle tee is what I wore for my bridal shower. Now, this was one of my first picks as a top to knit for my bridal shower. I was also knitting a second top at the same time, the Antiquity Blouse by Fable Knitwear, and that one just didn't work out. I'm going to frog the yarn and use it for something else. I just don't know what that is yet. But I was knitting that in tandem with my souffle tee because both of those patterns were relatively involved and they would take a long time, and I didn't want to get about 80% of the way through one and realize this isn't quite what I have in mind. I need to switch gears and start a new pattern from the beginning right now. So I thought it'd be smart to work on them in tandem, and it was smart in the end. I got close to my bridal shower date and the Fable knitwear pattern was not cutting it. It was not going to work for me. And then I got more into my souffle tee, and I got worried because I was starting to play a little bit of yarn chicken and it looked like I wasn't going to win because it looked like I didn't have the amount that I needed to complete the body and the sleeves. So I finished my body first, and then with my remaining yarn, I just split it into two and I started knitting the sleeves, and I basically knit them until I ran out of yarn. And I got all the way done one sleeve, but the second sleeve I didn't quite finish, and I had to use a little bit of a different color of the same yarn to finish that folded sleeve, the folded hem on the sleeve. But this is what I ended up wearing to my bridal shower, and it was absolutely perfect. This beautiful bridal blue just looked awesome with the white tulle skirt that I had picked out to wear. And the reason I wore a white tulle skirt was because it was kind of bridal-y, and it was the same skirt that I wore in our engagement photos that I did with my Estrella sweater that I knitted. So I thought it would just look really, really nice to also wear that to the bridal shower. And this top ended up being perfect because I also had matching blue Converse sneakers. I am a sneaker wearer, and I actually ended up wearing sneakers on our wedding day under my wedding dress for the whole time, not just as dancing shoes. My look from the start of the day to the end of the day was a pair of sneakers. And I was so grateful because I was on my feet a lot. We were walking around the woods, taking our photos. The actual ceremony location was down a bunch of stairs and then down a lawn. So I was very glad that I had sneakers on. Now, I absolutely love the souffle tee pattern by Laura Penrose. It is one of my favorite things. I wear my navy souffle all the time, as you've seen in my outfit that I had for our Christmas Eve night with my in-laws. And I've worn it many times at work, date nights, just hanging around the house. It's one of my favorite patterns and I really, really love it. However, this one didn't work out as well because this one used a completely different type of yarn and that really affected how it looks. So the souffle is designed using mohair yarn. And to knit this one, I used tencel yarn, which is a wood pulp. So it is a plant-based yarn and it's very shiny. It's very almost silk-like. However, it doesn't have any memory to it. That also means it tends to drape and hang. And as you can see, the top part of this top is with one strand, so it's more sheer than the bottom part, which is knit with two strands of the tencel yarn. And I find I cannot wear this top without something underneath because that sheer part comes down all the way to here, and this would just not be comfortable for me to wear, having that much sheer that far down. So I know that this did not turn out the way that I had intended, and the more I wear it, the more drapey it gets. So I do have plans to knit the souffle again using this tencel yarn. However, I'm gonna hold a strand of mohair with it to give it more of that memory that it needs to not drape so much. And I'm going to knit this yoke section with just mohair so that I can make sure that this part doesn't drag down more than I would like it to, so that the ruffle stays right about here, which is where it's supposed to. But as you can see, I have more length than I need because of the nature of the tencel yarn. Another part of the top that got affected by the drapiness of the tencel yarn were the sleeves. Now, I didn't have time to do this before the bridal shower, and I was aware of it at the time, and you can see it in my photos from the bridal shower, which I'll put right here, is that the sleeves were just really loose, and that was caused by the drapiness of the yarn. The sleeves on the souffle are supposed to be nice and poofy, but you only get that with the loftiness of the mohair. You can't get that with a drapey yarn. It's got too much weight to it. It just wants to hang. So I ended up fixing mine after the bridal shower by adding some elastic into the folded cuffs. Now this is super easy to do. I just took some, I think it was 1/4 inch elastic, measured it around my arm to where it was comfortable, where it was snug but not too tight. And I just went down to the bottom of the sleeve, just where the beginning of round was. I just like spread open a stitch, fed through the elastic, pulled it out, sewed it together, and then just sort of shimmied it back in and just sort of like smushed that loose stitch back into place. It sounds ridiculous, but it totally worked. And I do have a reel of me doing that. So if I can, I'll put that in here as well. But just to show you how the sleeves really needed to kind of be cinched in, and that's why this sweater hasn't gotten as much wear as my original souffle, simply because the nature of this yarn just doesn't lend itself well to the pattern. But I do still love it. I have worn it a couple of different ways, and I'm now going to show you how I styled my souffle tee. Now, based on the number of outfits you just saw, you might think that my blue souffle tee should have been higher on the list, but based on how much I've worn this sweater, not the number of different outfits I can make up with it, but based on the number of times that I have worn it, my Eclair raglan, also by Laura Penrose, is slightly above my souffle tee. And that is because as soon as the temperatures chilled down, I started living in this sweater. And I was also living in it earlier in the year because I finished this in about February, maybe it was end of February, beginning of March of earlier this year. Now, I have worn this sweater not just as an everyday sweater, which is typically how I wear it. I almost always wear this with jeans or with pants. I haven't yet figured out how I would wear it with a skirt, simply because it's just a long tunic length sweater. I don't really like it with a skirt, but never say never. I might come up with an idea at some point. But I've also worn this sweater as a cosplay because this is my Fera sweater. At least I like to call it that. It's just called the Eclair raglan, but this is exactly how I picture Fera's sweater from the ACOTAR books. It is so cozy. It's that beautiful creamy color. The cables are stunning. I love everything about this sweater. And this was the first sweater that really told me that, yes, I need to have a tunic sweater in my wardrobe. I already had one with my Evening in the Village turtleneck, but I don't wear that one as much as this one because that one is a heavier gauge, and I find the yarn in that one, because it has that strand of metallic thread in it, it really causes my arms to itch, and it gets kind of uncomfortable after a while. But I do love to keep that one for when it's really cold outside and I don't want to wear a coat. I'll wear a long sleeve shirt underneath that turtleneck, and then that's a perfect topper for going out. But this one has kind of taken the place of my Evening in the Village turtleneck. It also helps that this one I was able to just follow the pattern as is, because this is a size inclusive pattern and that one is not. And this one I just find I gravitate towards so much. If I'm just sitting at home and I want to be cozy, this is the sweater that I pull out of my closet. If I just need a basic sweater and jeans outfit to wear to work, this is what I pull out of the closet. If I am sitting outside and it's starting to get chilly, this is what I go for. This is what I grab. It may not be something that I wear a lot of exciting outfits with. It's not something that I get really creative with my outfits, but it is definitely one of my most worn sweaters, topped only by one other pattern, which I will show you after I show you how I style my Eclair raglan. You are probably not at all surprised to see that my most worn sweater is in fact my Lento sweater. If you have watched any of my content where I'm wearing this sweater, especially my podcast episode where I talked about knitting this sweater, you'll know this is one of my most loved knitted pieces in my entire wardrobe, no matter when I knitted it. Yes, my Astraeus will always be one of my favorites simply because it's so special to me, because I knitted it for our engagement photo shoot. It was a very intricate pattern using very, very special yarn. But when it comes to what I wear the most, what I gravitate towards the most, what I simply feel happiest wearing, it's this sweater. It's my Lento sweater. And really the biggest part of that is the yarn. It is the most special, colorful, beautiful yarn I think I have in my entire stash. Well, it's not in stash anymore because it's knitted. So last year I asked for some very beautiful yarn for Christmas. My husband got me 2 skeins of Hedgehog Fibers Kid Silk Haze in the color Hush, which is this absolutely stunning ethereal pinkish purple. And when I was looking for patterns to knit with it, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I did what I always do when that happens to me. I asked the internet. I think I put it in my stories asking people like, I want to knit something with this. It's so many yards. I need a pattern. I think I want to try and make a garment with it. Give me your ideas. And of the suggestions that were made to me, the one that stood out was the Lento sweater. And this was suggested to me by Rebecca of the Crayabea because she had just finished knitting a version of the Lento that was a strand of fingering and a strand of mohair held together, and she managed to do a full sweater. Now, I'm a little bigger than Rebecca, so I was a little hesitant going into this pattern, but I took a look at it and I did a swatch and it looked like it was going to work. So after looking at the Lento sweater and realizing I can probably make that with the yardage that I have, I then started looking in my stash about what fingering I wanted to hold with the Hush mohair. And it's such a special yarn. It's so beautiful. It's really a color that kind of defies what you expect because it's pink, it's purple, it's periwinkle, it's like all of these different shades together and you see them all at the same time. It's just a beautiful prismatic color. It's magic, that's what it is. But I couldn't really choose a single color yarn to hold with it, and I really wanted to try and use something in my stash. Now, I don't remember if I spotted the yarn in my stash or if I was on the couch and the idea came to me, but I remembered that I had a bunch of minis from my advent calendar that I'd gotten that Christmas from the Woolshed, and a lot of those colors were pinkish purple. So I thought to myself, like, can I make enough? Like, do I have enough to match the yardage? And I just looked into the box and I just started pulling out anything that looked even remotely similar to the Hush. And I realized a lot of them were exactly the color I was looking for. And then I realized they made the most beautiful fade imaginable. And that's what I decided to do. I faded my minis held with the Hush from darkest to lightest. And the reason I chose to go from darkest to lightest is because my favorite minis from the entire spread were the darker ones. And I really wanted to have those ones around my neck to really focus right here at the neck of the sweater and to just then radiate down. I didn't want the purple to just be a small strip on the bottom here or the bottom here. But I also chose to do it that way because the lighter purples were almost exactly the same. They didn't really change very much. So if I had to play around with how much I had at that point in the sweater, like with the sleeves and the body, I could get away better with fudging colors with the lighter colors in that spectrum. I didn't have to worry so much about matching things very particularly. And I can show you that exactly because my colors at the top end of this sleeve are after the big chunk of the yoke, after I split for the sleeves, they start to get to be thinner strips of color until you get to about here. And then it's one color for this whole section of the sleeve. And that's because right about here is where I ended the body of this sweater. And I didn't need to lengthen the body anymore because I was going with a cropped style and I was dividing my yarns so that I would have an equal amount for the sleeves and for the body. I was doing all kinds of calculations. I don't really remember what they are now, but if you would like more information about that, I'll link my Lento sweater video below. And I realized that I was done with the body. The body was at a point that I was really happy with. So I was able to just use one color for the last 4 inches of each sleeve. And if I had have waited to use the dark color until the end, I would have these really big chunks of dark that really stand out as being different from the rest of the sleeve. But because the pinky purples at this point were very, very similar, you can't really tell. It looks very cohesive. So that's how I decided to do dark to light. Now, I have worn this sweater more times than I can count, and I won't show you every single outfit that I've worn it with, but I'll show you some of my favorites because I have worn some really, really fun outfits with this sweater, and it has swiftly become my favorite sweater in my wardrobe, and it's one that I just grab for all the time. This one is one that I love to wear with high-waisted skirts because it's a cropped sweater. And this project really showed me that I can have a lot of fun styling a cropped sweater, and I need more cropped sweaters in my wardrobe. I thought when I finished my Estrella sweater, which is a little more cropped than this one, not by much, only by an inch or two, I didn't realize how versatile I would find a cropped sweater in my wardrobe. But after finishing that sweater, and even more so after finishing this one, I realized I love a cropped sweater. Which is kind of nice if I'm stuck knitting the body of a sweater and I want it to be done, I can just finish it a little earlier and have a cropped sweater instead of a full-length sweater. So I definitely want more of those in my wardrobe. I find that I have worn this a lot. And I also love it because of the color. It makes me so happy to put this sweater on and to have this beautiful color palette. Surprisingly, it goes with a lot of different colors. I am surprised at how many things I find to put with this sweater. So this is my most worn sweater that I knitted this year. And now I'm going to show you how exactly I styled this sweater. So did you guess correctly that my Lento sweater was my most worn sweater of 2023? I'm sure that if you've been here for a while, you probably did realize that because I absolutely love this sweater. I love all the sweaters that I knitted this year, and I found that I really focused a lot on making things that I wanted to wear. I didn't just focus on a pattern that worked with the amount of yarn that I had or just something that I was lukewarm about. I really was thoughtful and intentional about the patterns that I chose this year. And I really feel like the longer that I knit for myself, especially making garments for myself, the more I'm in tune with my own style and with what I like to wear. And I'm identifying those missing pieces in my wardrobe that I want to have hand knitted. So I have some plans for 2024, but I never really share my knitting plans because those plans change all the time. And I feel kind of silly saying, I'm going to make XYZ. And then come the end of the year, I say, oh, I didn't actually make any of those things. I made these things instead. So I don't actually make solid knitting plans because they always change. Because I'm like a squirrel. I see a new pattern and I think, ooh, that looks good. Let me do that instead. So I don't make solid plans, but I have ideas of what I want to make this year, and maybe they'll come to fruition. Maybe they'll get pushed to next year, or maybe I'll change my mind entirely and not want to make them at all. But I'm really proud of the things that I knitted this year, and one of my favorite things about being able to make my own clothes with knitting is that it really is helping me be more creative with my personal style and helping me realize new ways of wearing some of the clothes that I have, and definitely making knits that are more versatile, or realizing that the knits that I made expecting one way of wearing them can be versatile and be worn a completely different way, like I could with the Botanical tee. And that wraps up this special video showing you the garments that I knitted for myself in 2023, how often I wore them, and how I styled them. If you're a new viewer, thank you so much for joining me. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. While you're here, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check out some of my other videos. I mainly upload podcasts and pattern roundup videos, but I also do special videos such as the one you're currently watching. If you want to find out when my next video comes out, subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever my new videos are released. I hope you all enjoyed this romp through what I knitted for myself in 2023, and I hope you all take care and happy knitting!